How are we doing, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing how, in my opinion, I believe that developers have really failed to hook their audience into the world of BDO when it comes to storytelling and the lore of the universe they've created, which is a real shame. I believe this applies a bit more to veterans than it does for new players, but overall, I think the basic storytelling element of this game is not done well. And I'll get into that in a moment. But when I ask my friends who are all veteran players, hey, what do you know about the story of the game? What do you know about the world that we're in? No one knows anything other than they think the Black Spirit's the bad guy. That's crazy to me. And I asked them, hey, has any cutscenes you remember? The only cutscene they remember is the Kazaka one, and I can relate. That's the only one I remember as well when I played the game, was the Kazaka cutscene. And as we got introduced to an interesting character for just a moment there. Is Isara? I don't remember her name. Oops. But yeah, I mean, that tells you a lot about the storytelling. But that being said, it's the only time that I felt there was some stakes and some levity with this ominous tone, and it hooked me to want to learn a bit more about the world. Unfortunately, they didn't reel that hook in at all, and it just felt like there was no development after that cutscene. It was just, the game itself is really fun, the mechanics are great, but storytelling is just abysmal. They have tried to do a better job at this, with having more dialogue being spoken out by the NPCs to your character, which is good. They've got more cutscenes, which is good, but I could tell you, I've played the game again on my PC again. I've completed the quest line again, on the main quest line again after these changes, and I can appreciate the development time they've put into it, but here's the issue. The story's boring. I spent an hour, just on, maybe over, around an hour, just really trying to listen to everything that's being said. Just watching all the cutscenes, and it was just boring. They didn't introduce any interesting characters early on for me to want to learn more about, including my own character. The only interesting character was the Black Spirit. That wasn't enough, and that isn't going to be enough. And newer players might give you a bit more benefit of the doubt and a bit more time to watch more of the cutscenes and listen to more of the dialogue. Because, when you're a veteran player, you're a bit more cynical in these areas, especially when you know how long the main quest line is going to take to do without skipping it, with skipping everything. You know how long the infinite progression loop is, and you know all the mechanics of the game. It is a bit harder to get us to listen to your story. And it's a bit easier to get new players to listen to your story because it's new to them. It's a new world. They're learning these new mechanics. They're learning the world that they're in. However, if you did a good job about this, there would be more videos online with people discussing characters they like in the world. That's the most important thing when it comes to storytelling, is having good characters. And when I go online and I don't see any videos on any of the characters in the world that you've created, it tells me you've done a pretty bad job of storytelling. There is a hunger for the story in BDO, and you can see that when you go to these compilation cutscenes where they're trying to chop all the cutscenes and dialogue scenes together. There's a decent number of views on these videos, so people are hungry to know. But unfortunately, like I said, the lack of characters in the game is pretty obvious, and it's one of the main reasons that people don't want to know more about your lore, because the first thing, if you want people to know more about the world that they're in, you need to have characters that they're interested in. If you're interested in a character, then you're interested about the world that character's in, and you want to learn more. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is either create some new characters or take some existing characters and actually do real character development. Go through a traditional hero's arc. I think that's the best way for, especially an MMORPG like this, that's set in this fantasy, medieval, magical time. Take a traditional hero, go through the traditional hero's arc, try and get some really good, solid side characters to be around that hero, and follow them through their journey to defeat a villain. Then if you can also develop that villain as well, then you've got a really good game. If you can have one decent hero character, one decent villains, and a decent number of side characters that all help create the story, not create the story, but really help the main character that your story is focused on to progress, then we're going to get attached to these side characters. We're going to get attached to the main character, and then we're going to want to know more about the world. So let me show you a quick cutscene here of a video game that I have not played, which some of you may flame me in the comment section down below for not playing it, but I just saw this one cutscene with no context, and I'm more interested in the world that I see in this cutscene from 5 minutes than I am in the entirety of my 1,000 hours of playing in BDO to learn more about BDO. So let me show you that, and then we can discuss.
Let me Pause the music real quick.
There is no honor in this.
I'll just play it.
They will come for us now. All of them!
My father, Hikazi. He fought with you in the Third War. He told me stories. How you could cut down 10 enemies with a single blow. This be my first battle. What should I do?
Don't die.
Yes, of course, but if I do fall, may it be with honor in glorious command.
There will be no glory today.
This one was so good, man. That's his son in ICC, the fourth boss. Just remember when you're watching this cinematic, remember the Warcraft movie, and remember what we could have had.
You have earned your warrior's death, my son. Yet once again, I am denied it.
What are you doing?
Claiming what is mine.
So this is the character, the troll, this is the character.
Go back. I said go back! Live another day. Go back to your father.
I can't. He's dead. The Horde. It's all we have.
So, you know me. Is that it? What I've seen? What I've done? Oh, give up, boy.
Like you?
So he's clever, you know?
Live another day.
It was so good. This is so good.
Without honor.
See, this is World of Warcraft, right? This is great.
Now tell me after watching that clip, it did not feel badass as hell and you don't want to know more about that world. And I think that medium is one of the best ways for storytelling in video games, is really just that character-focused storytelling, where it's all about setting up a character that feels epic, that you can attach to and you can look up to and you can sympathize with and you can connect to. So, when is the best time for BDO to do this? Because like I said, veterans don't want to feel like their time's being wasted. So what I'd really suggest is really focus on when the new continent comes out in Port Rat. I'm hoping that this is going to be like the next evolution in BDO. Like, we got all these new regions coming out, that's epic, those are awesome. But when it comes to Port Rat, that feels like a new continent when you go there. And they can make that feel like, I don't know, in quotation marks, BDO 2. Obviously, it's still going to be BDO, but that could be the next real big step in the journey for the game. And I can guarantee you, if you market it well, there's going to be a lot of hype when that continent gets released. Whether that's next year, 2 years, or 3 years from now, I don't know. The longer the better, because they can work on introducing an epic story in that new region. And if they can find a way of getting your character to log into the game, when they get to Port Rat, and let's say you go through a big-ass door, a big-ass archway that leads you into this new land, and then it just kind of fades out as you walk in with your character. And then as it fades out, your game starts downloading the new patch, and it starts telling you this epic story. There's going to be this cutscene with these characters getting introduced, and your character meets these new characters, and it introduces this epic struggle that they're in, and this epic start to a journey with a really cool score behind it, with very good animations, and that hopefulness with that dark undertone. I think that would be the best way to capitalize on the hype. Because I could tell you, when there's a big patch coming out for a game, or there's a new game coming out, or a game that I'm currently playing is having that next big expansion coming, that period that we're waiting, where the game's downloading, just feels like forever. It feels like a very long period of time. And you're just like, come on, I really want to play. But you're stuck in that loading screen. And in my opinion, that's the best time for the developers to tell you a story. So that time that you're waiting, you're enjoying yourself and immersing yourself in that universe. And they can even build upon this more if they want. So they can have that new story coming up that's showing you the epic cutscene. And maybe they can have the pre-log. So I don't know how they can do it, but a suggestion I could make is the character, when you go through that gateway, it scans everything that you've done. This is your character. Okay, like, you're on a ninja wearing this outfit. You've killed Kazaka. You've done the main quest line. You've done the Kama-Sylvia quest line. You've done the Jugen quest line. You've got your Black Star weapon. You've crafted it. You've crafted your Black Star armor. These important story beats within the game, and try and thread a story that connects your character to the world that it was in and the journey that he's taken in that world. That, again, I don't know the story, so I don't know how interesting that would be. So it's up to developers if they have an interesting story there, or if they can create an interesting story with important character beats and show your character go through all the achievements in the game. That would feel pretty epic. It will make you feel more connected to your character into the world that it was in. And then it's going to have this epic new adventure that you're about to get journey into. I think that's the best way, in my opinion, for them to capitalize on storytelling, and the best way to feel like that the existing veteran adventurers aren't wasting their time and are getting introduced to something cool and interesting, and the best way to captivate a new audience. Those lore-hungry players. There's a lot of people that play MMOs for that amazing immersive story and to get stuck in that lore that I think pass through BDO and don't just quit too early on, because it's very jarring, the lore in this game and the way you can get that information. So if they can do that and maybe have a couple of in-game books and in-game lore journals ready for you in that new patch, where you can kind of like read through some interesting stuff if you're hooked into the story through the cinematics. So that's my opinions on what they can do to make us more interested in their story. But let me know what you think. Is there any opinions you have that are contrary to mine? Do you agree with me? Or do you even care about the story? Because I know that maybe a lot of people don't care about the story, and I can sympathize with that. But either way, I do believe it's a market that they're missing out on, and I think that is somewhere that they can really develop and create something awesome for the players. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.
We will never be slaves!